All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Armin from Atheist Republic. And I just want to say there's another Atheist Republic admin here that I'm seeing for the first time. We always talk on the internet for the past 3 years, but I'm really happy to see you. All right, so today I'm going to talk about how atheists could do a better job at reaching out to ex-Muslims. I wish Ahmed was here, but that's fine. So most people know that it's common knowledge that I have to slide like this because we don't know how to open this in PowerPoint. Anyways, so most people know that it's very dangerous for a lot of people to be open about their atheism in Islamic countries. To announce that you're leaving Islam in at least 20 countries is considered a crime. And in around 9 to 13 countries, based on what reports you look at, you could actually get killed for it. In Saudi Arabia, it's actually children learn in their school textbook that it justifies it to kill people for leaving Islam. And it's not just the government that supports this. In many Islamic countries, actually there's a lot of popular support for killing people for leaving Islam. In Egypt, it goes as high as 84%. In Jordan, it's 86%. But yet, so many people decide to leave Islam, and so many others decide to actually be open about it. Not only that, in a lot of Islamic countries, there are a lot of atheist activists, people that, not just atheist activism, but also secular activists, people that decide to, with all their negative backlash and all the risk associated with it, they feel like they need to publicly challenge, things that they did really feel passionately about. And because there's such a dominant, Islam is such a dominant force in a lot of these countries, these even with the great risk that is associated with it, when you talk to a lot of ex-Muslims in these countries, it's just that they just feel no other way of dealing with it other than taking the risk. And atheist activism and secularism is nothing new in Islamic countries. A lot of people, when you show them that there's a lot of atheist groups, a lot of atheist secular organizations in Islamic countries, they get surprised. But this is something that has been there for thousands of years. We have even many Arab scholars, Persian scholars talking about their atheistic views, their materialistic views. The only difference is now, even more than before, this has been pushed underground. It's not that it wasn't there. It's not. Sometimes a lot of atheists, when they try to help activism in Islamic countries, they assume that this is something very new there, but it's not. The only thing is that it's underground, and what we need to do is find these people that are already active in secular movements and just give them a little bit more attention, because they're not getting any attention over there, and we are not doing a very good job at talking about them. There's a lot of resistance to, even though religion is such a powerful and dominating force in a lot of these countries, there's a lot of different small ways people find to try to show their defiance against it. This is in Turkey, and this is how some people reacted when the government tried to introduce legislation to ban alcohol. This is in Iran, and these girls all decided to take off their hijab in front of a sign that tells them that they need to wear their hijab. And this is actually a very risky thing to do in Iran. And you see, there's a lot of them. And you could get arrested in Iran just for having bad hijab, not just no hijab. So imagine the risk that they're taking. And even though with this risk, there are hundreds, if you go just search for it, hundreds of pictures of Iranian women deciding to take their hijabs off in an act of defiance to religious ruling. And they post their pictures online. And there's actually even a very popular Facebook page where girls send their pictures to the page. There's 130,000 followers. And the page posts their pictures. And this is actually the name of the page, if you want. It's basically a, like, when you don't have any way to express your complaints or your defiance, people try to find very small, for us this might seem like not a big deal. Okay, you take your hijab off, but for them, there's no other way of expressing themselves. There's no other way to express their frustration with how much their lives is influenced by religion. So whenever there's any outlet to make such an expression, they will use it. Being open about criticizing Islam or being open about your atheism could have very serious consequences. These are people that either got killed, got stabbed, got imprisoned, and some of these people, their only crime was just announcing that they're atheists on Facebook. They just posted that they don't believe in God. 7 years in prison. Some of them just, one of them, that guy over there, he just shared someone else's YouTube post. He just shared it. And he got imprisoned for that. So when we live in a country where we can say whatever we want and no one can do anything to us for just saying things, this immunity is something, for us it seems like obvious, but this is a very valuable asset that we have, and we don't even recognize it. It's hard to understand how valuable that is when you had it all your life. When nobody can do anything, there's no consequences for your opinions or your views. And given that we have such a valuable asset, and this is something that a lot of ex-Muslims could really use, we should be able to lend our voice to people that don't have it. This is me kissing the Quran before going to school. That's my mom. It's interesting. In the last presentation, we were talking about how if there is prayer in school, you should be able to legally challenge the school. In Iran, everybody has to listen to the Quran 15 minutes before going to class, and imagine if you try to challenge that. First of all, that's basically suicide. That's not, imagine I can't even imagine what would happen if I go to school and I don't want to listen to the Quran in the morning. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. That would be, that would have very harsh consequences, not just for me, but for my parents as well, because they would be like, what are they teaching you at home? But, thank you. My family wasn't very religious, but when I grew up, I got inspired by, during my teen years, I became very religious. I became inspired by some religious teachers at school, and I decided to take Islam seriously. My parents hated it, but after I tried that for a few years, but I then started questioning all my views. The more I took it seriously, the more I studied it, the more I thought this doesn't make sense. And then eventually, at around age 18, I became an atheist, and I lost all my faith. But when I lost my faith, I also lost my God. And when I lost my God, for me, that was losing my best friend, because I was like losing my only friend, not just my best friend, because for me, that personal relationship was everything I had. I didn't lose my religion because I was trying to be rebellious. It just started not making sense. And when I lost my God, when I lost my best friend, because I had put everything, all my life was supposed to be about my religion and my relationship with my God, the sudden realization that this is all fake made it I was very lonely. It made it feel very empty. It made it feel like basically my life was based on nothing. And the frustration that I had was something that I couldn't even share it with anybody. And I didn't even think that anybody around me would ever consider such an option. And I didn't even think that there couldn't be many other atheists in Iran. And sometimes I felt I was crazy. I felt like I was arrogant enough to believe that I came to a realization of something that nobody else around me believed. I was basically calling everybody else an idiot. But maybe I was the idiot. So this frustration and this loneliness, I decided to open an online community on Orkut. There's a previous social media website before Facebook. I decided to, I called it the Iranian Atheists. And I just opened it. And I just left it there. And didn't think much of it. And within weeks, hundreds of people joined. And I was shocked. I couldn't believe that these people are actually atheists. And I talked to them, and they're like, holy crap, they're atheists. And they're in Iran. And they were also shocked to find this community and see all these other atheists there. And we were all shocked, and we were all surprised. And it was great. It was like we had this community. We felt like a family. And it was, for all of us, it was a huge emotional feeling. And this is eventually led me to start Atheist Republic. And the idea behind Atheist Republic was that atheists all around the world, if they're demonized by their society, they should be able to create their own society and go somewhere that they're not demonized. They should be able to find other people that have the same opinions of them, have the same views of them, but more importantly, would not judge them just because they haven't bought into this belief system. And even, you would think that in the age of social media, of internet, people should be able to just find other atheists around them online. But surprisingly, even till today, a lot of people from other countries, when they find our community and other communities, they're always shocked. Maybe not in Canada anymore, but from Philippines, from Indonesia, from Egypt, from Iran. They're like, oh my God, I didn't know there's so many of you out there. And this is great. You guys, and they get even more shocked when they find so many, we got, for example, Filipino atheists joined the Atheist Republic's private group. And then they're like, hey, are there any Filipinos here? And they get so many comments, and they're all shocked, like, oh my God, there's so many Filipino atheists here. This is Mohammed Sayed, the president of ex-Muslims of North America. He actually says the same thing. He interviews a lot of ex-Muslims, and he says the most persistent line that he gets when he interviews ex-Muslims is that, I thought I was the only one. And he interviews ex-Muslims in North America, not in Egypt, Iran, or Saudi Arabia. So if ex-Muslims in North America, in Canada and United States, if they think that they're the only one, imagine what atheists in Iran or in Indonesia feel like. And how important it is for us to reach out to them and show them that there's a lot of other people like them. So why is it important for us here in the West, for atheists and secularists in the West to reach out to ex-Muslims. So, so one thing that you heard in the last presentation was that we are getting so good and so organized at what we do. We are much more efficient than before. And the thing is that a lot of ex-Muslims in other countries, a lot of atheists in other countries, they don't have that foundation because it was harder for them to create such foundations when they couldn't even find each other. What we could do is we could lend our experiences and our resources to these organizations and reach out to them. But so it's not just the freedom of speech that we have here that we could lend to them. We also have a lot of technical abilities when it comes to, podcasting, when it comes to publishing books on Amazon they don't have access to, when they have, there's a lot of experience when it comes to organizing events with what works, what doesn't work, how to create a social media campaign that is more effective. All these knowledge, all these little bits of experience that we have gained all these years are things that we could share with them if we were somehow communicating with them more. Again, this goes back to the fact that what they need the most is basically somebody to be able to reflect their complaints and express it in an environment when there's no backlash. We have podcasts, we have blogs, we have events. If we could interview a lot of ex-Muslims where they have things to say, but they can't speak out about it, if they could just tell it to us and we would be their voice in a place where it gets more attention and in a place that there's also no backlash, that would be a huge asset to them. A lot of people sometimes say that, oh, why would we want to do that? Like, we don't understand what they do. Let them speak for their own. But the thing is that if you talk to them, no, they do need us. They do need our platforms. They do need our voices. That's what they would tell you. So it's amazing to me that some people just assume that, because sometimes you hear some people assume that, why do you think that you could represent people that you don't understand? But if you talk to them, they actually would very much appreciate any kind of attention that their causes could get. Another advantage of another benefit for us reaching out to ex-Muslims is that it reminds us that there's still so much to fight for. Sometimes a lot of atheists and secularists here in the West, they forget how the dominant power of religion can affect people in other places in the world. They look at the problems here that religion has, and sometimes they feel like we're winning. We're making a lot of progress. Religion doesn't have that much influence anymore. Everything is going well, and it's not that big of a deal anymore. Maybe some places you could find some examples of school. People are praying in school and stuff like that, but which is important to fight for. But the thing is that if you look at globally, there are a lot of places that we're actually not winning at all. Islam is still growing really fast, and not just Islam, Islamic fundamentalism is growing really fast as well. And they are spreading, and they are actually very, very good. Sometimes here in the West we say okay, internet is killing religion. Guess what? In a lot of Islamic schools, they're good at using social media. They're good at spreading their ideologies over the internet as well. And they are doing it very effectively. And one reason why a lot of people, this is the age of information, but it's also the age of misinformation as well. The internet is not just filled with science and skepticism and logic. There's a lot of noise out there. And even with a lot of good information out there, it's sometimes become very hard for people to, tell the difference, especially when they're more exposed to the type of content. When all your friends on Facebook are Muslim, you're not going to see a Facebook share, from an atheist page. You're going to see all the, I love my prophet kind of shares from your other friends, or like Happy Ramadan or stuff like that. But it's important to know that even among all this noise, there are people that are fighting for more liberal views and liberal, more secular governments, and maybe not a religion-free society, but a society that is a little bit less influenced by religious dominance. Another benefit for reaching out to ex-Muslims is that ex-Muslims could be our channel to reaching out to Muslims that are a little bit skeptical about their religion. When you do get a lot of Muslims sometimes not being very certain about their religion, or having questions, or having doubts. But if secularism or atheistic views are introduced to them by outsiders, it's usually perceived as a Western ideology trying to hijack reform movements. But if these ideas are introduced to them from people in their own area, with their own cultural background, with their own ethnicity, it could have a much more powerful influence. So as atheists, we could empower ex-Muslims to reach out to more people in their own area when it's safe. And I will tell you how we can empower them. So a lot of secular organizations or atheist groups will say, yeah, these are all important, but we need to focus on our own thing, and they need to focus on their own thing, and this is not for us. And usually when I talk to them, these are the reasons they give us. These are the most common reasons. There are other reasons as well, but these are three of the most common reasons that they give us. So number one is that they say that they need to focus on local issues because that's where they could have the highest impact. But that's not really true anymore, and it's less relevant today, and it's going to be much less relevant even in the future. Now, with social media, with the internet, most discussions are happening online. Most people are learning things online. Most planning, organization. Like I said, I have one of the other admins of Atheist Republic. We have never met face to face. This is the first time we met face to face, and we have planned so much over the internet for the past 3 years. So, and all the other admins of the Atheist Republic team, I've never met any of them, and there's like 140 of us. And so if this level of planning and organization can be done online, I don't think it's not that we shouldn't focus on, we shouldn't strive for making changes in our local environment, because if we don't care about our small local issues, who else would care? But I'm saying that we could also make changes halfway across the world. Sometimes people say that, okay, this is important, but the members of our organization don't care. I mean, it's not in their priority list. They care about their own local issues. But the thing is that sometimes you might be surprised if you haven't introduced these ideas with them, these new projects with them. You don't know if you could show the members of your organization that they could actually make a difference. They might actually become very interested in participating. They might have not known that there's anything they could do. If you could show your members that there's actually very easy steps that they could do that has a huge impact, they might actually be very excited. And actually, this might be a very interesting way of getting the members of your organization excited about your next project. Sometimes people say that we just don't understand, Islam-related issues. So we just don't want to get involved with something that we don't understand. And actually, with regard, when they are a little bit more specific about that, they say, for example, a lot of different Muslims have different views, and it's hard for us to say, like, okay, which one is Islam? I don't understand. I don't want to criticize something if I don't even know that if it's actually representing the religion, or if there's any such thing as true Islam, or is like multiple versions of Islam. Some of them seem more liberal, some of them seem more conservative. So I don't want to attack something and then all of a sudden realize that this was a fringe group of people that wasn't the core ideology. So I'd just rather stay away from it. Some other people would say, there's a lot of things that are apparently Islamic and I disagree with, but there's also a lot of Islamic culture, Islamic tradition that seems so very beautiful and traditional. There's a lot of traditions and that are inspirational and harmless. And I feel like if I'm attacking, criticizing Islam, it would be perceived as attacking people's cultural identity, and I don't want to do that. But that's exactly why it helps to bring more attention to ex-Muslims. Because ex-Muslims, many ex-Muslims have the same cultural background and the same ethnicity as Muslims. So they are in a very unique position to separate culture, ethnicity, and religion. Because they don't share the religion the same, they share the culture, they share ethnicity. And also they are in a very good position to understand the different aspects of Islam, which one is traditional mainstream Islam, which one is the new reformist movements. So having them in your team or in your events will be able to give you a great perspective. And the thing is that you don't even need to 100% understand everything about Islam. Just having ex-Muslims on your team and giving them the platform will be it's a great opportunity for them to educate your audience and whoever visits your platform. So what are some effective ways to reach out to more ex-Muslims? So this is Sarah and Muhammad, the co-founders of Ex-Muslims of North America. So North America, just United States and Canada, not Mexico. But they have organized and they have planned a lot of different projects. And their organization is a great resource for people that don't know where to start. You could plan joint events with them. You could contact them for guidance or more resources. They actually would very much welcome any organization if they want to reach out to them. And they have contacts everywhere in Canada and US. So even if they are not able to show up, they have representatives everywhere to be able to work with you and your organization. Another easy thing to do is just basically to, as I said, invite ex-Muslims to your events, invite them to your podcast, get them to offer them to do a guest blog on your website. Just sharing your platform with them is very simple, very easy, and it seems like a small thing to do, but for them, for a lot of people that don't have an audience but have very important and interesting stories, that could mean a lot. And a lot of these stories are actually, getting them, sharing personal stories and experiences are a very powerful way of connecting with people. It's much more powerful sometimes than just statistics and reports. You could tell people that this is the number of people that have died in Saudi Arabia for witchcraft, which is true. But until somebody comes and tells you what they had went through or what their family had to go through, a lot of people can't really connect to that. So those were for reaching out to ex-Muslims that are already in the West. But if you want to bring more attention to ex-Muslims that are still in Islamic countries, you could reach out to specific organizations for each country. And sometimes a lot of people just treat all Islamic countries as if just one area and they're all the same. But these countries are very, very different. As you saw in the statistics at the beginning, in Egypt, the support for killing people that leave Islam was 84%, but in Lebanon it was around 5%. So it's a huge difference. So these countries are very different. They all have their own unique challenges, their own unique needs. So treating them all the same is not very efficient. It's good to get in touch with people over there and see what they need and see what they want you to bring more attention to. And I'm sure a lot of them will very much appreciate you doing that, because they don't get any attention, almost any attention. So, for a lot of people here, when they see that we have made a lot of progress here in Western countries, but when they look at Islamic countries and when they look at the news, they think like, okay, that's just way too religious, just as a lost cause. There's nothing that we can do. We just have to wait until they do something. Something happens over there. But it becomes a lot harder for people to dismiss those countries when they personally know people there that are trying to make the same kind of differences that we are trying to make here. When you hear their stories, when you know them personally, when you see their pictures, you start caring about them. And when you start caring about them, it's hard to just be like, yeah, that's something that we can't do anything about. And a lot of times, a lot of atheists in Islamic countries do feel a bit ignored. And just us sharing their stories or just listening to them, for them it could mean, it means a lot to them. Sometimes people think that that's not really a big deal, but when you talk to them and you see their reactions to us taking their stories seriously, you will see that for them that means a lot. It's just the isolation is so strong there that anybody just paying attention to you just makes a huge difference. This is a picture that was sent to us by
a very brave person.
Very brave girl living in Saudi Arabia, right from Kaaba. This is the holiest place you could be in Islam. And she told us that she was really, really scared when she did this. But this is her way of showing her solidarity with the other atheists around the world. And when she sent this just to share it with the admins of the page. But when we asked her if we could post this on the page for everybody else, she said yes. And the reaction was overwhelming. We got a lot of negative responses from Muslims that were saying that this is very offensive. They called it bigotry, which I don't really understand. She's Arab. She's from there, so I don't know how this is bigotry. But there was a lot of Muslims that said that this is very offensive. But we also got a lot of atheists that found this very encouraging. They praised her. They told there were so many messages of support and admirations from both atheists in the West And also a lot of other atheists in Islamic countries. There were people like, yeah, I'm from Pakistan, like, you go girl, and stuff like that. But, and people, and when she saw all those responses, she was very overwhelmed with joy when she saw, and we're actually right now trying to see if we could get her out of there. It's very difficult, but we're trying to get her in touch with some people. This was sent to us from Algeria. This was sent to us from Marwan in Tunisia, and he sent a message and he said that he wished he could have shown his face, but he didn't. This is Jesse from Lebanon. This is Farouk from Pakistan. This is from Tunisia, and what's interesting is that whether they decide to show their face or not is actually very consistent with what you would expect based on the country that they're sending it from. And this is when we share them, they actually after they send the picture, they come back and thank us for sharing it, and when they see the messages that people send, the comments on Facebook, a lot of other ex-Muslims see that, and they get encouraged to send their own pictures. And they get encouraged to be more vocal about their views. They see some people dare to do something like this, and they were like, yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. And the thing is that it sometimes takes a lot of courage to do something like this. The consequences could be very, very bad. But the fact that even though with the risk that they're taking, they sometimes do stuff like, they sometimes feel like they need to be vocal about their views, shows that I think it shows that the sense of community that they get from it, the rewarding feeling that they get from all the other people responding to it and commenting to it, must make it worthwhile for them. So it's important for us. So this is basically somehow proof that our encouragement, our messages of support does go a long way. So, you could do a lot of things when it comes to reaching out to ex-Muslims. You could plan big events, or have a podcast, have a blog, but it could be even much simpler than that. There's no better way to connect to other people than sharing stories. And by stories, you could transcend culture or geographical barriers. And a story could be just as simple as a picture. It could, and it could just be, and all we have to do, our reaction could just be a message of support in reaction to that. We don't have, if you don't have a blog post, if you're not a big organization that has host events or public speaking, or if you don't have a podcast show, all you could do is just basically reach out to these people and just let them know that they're not alone and they haven't been forgotten. And one thing we have done, we have added this green button all over our website at atheistrepublic.com. And it's on all our blog posts and news articles and forum pages, but also on our homepage. So if you go to atheistrepublic.com and scroll down until you find this green button, this gives an opportunity for ex-Muslims to share their stories with everybody around the world, but also gives you the opportunity to just let them know that they're not alone. Just let them know that you have heard their stories, you understand their challenges, or just ask a question. Like, you could ask them, like, what can we do? What do you want us to do? Ask them for advice. And just, it doesn't have to be even ex-Muslims. Just think about, it could be an ex-Muslim atheist in Pakistan. It could be an ex-Catholic Filipino in Davao. It could be in Mexico, in Brazil, in a lot of these places where even a lot of people that become less religious or become critical of religion, they don't feel like they have an outlet, or they don't think that there are other people around them that they could relate to. Just think about them and think what you would want to say to someone if they were just here with you right now. What would you want to ask them? What kind of messages of support you would want to give them? And just realize that you don't have to be next to them to be able to tell them that. You could easily share that, and now we're making that easier. So when you go home, go to atheistrepublic.com and just leave a message, and we will share this on all our platforms with all our followers. And most of our followers are actually a lot of people are surprised. When you look at our Facebook statistics, most of our followers are from Islamic countries. And that's it. If you
questions for Armin people? There we go.
Hi, I eventually, to this day, travels with a bodyguard who lives in America because she's an apostate. Do you feel a reach, or do you experience a reach from Islamic countries into North America for groups like yourself, from Islamists who would maybe want to do you harm for being so open to ex-Muslims, given that if the death penalty is on somebody and you're helping them out, you're kind of implicated. Is there any of that going on?
Well, we do get a lot of death threats, especially around Dry Muhammad Day. And most of them come from other countries. And I feel like I feel safe. I feel like, okay, if you manage to get a visa to come all the way here to kill me, maybe kudos to you. But I actually told our team that if I get killed, make sure to use this as a good marketing tactic. But no, I mean, I don't think so. There's enough atheist activists over there for them in reach for them to worry about if they want to do anything. Right now, atheism is not that big of a threat to them yet. To Shias, the main threat is Sunnis. To Sunnis, the main threat are Shias. Even when they kill Westerners, it's not really about killing Westerners. It's about the publicity that they get from people joining their group. Their main enemies are each other. So they wouldn't go out of their way. It just doesn't make any sense for them to bring attention to something that is not. Basically, it would work against them, because they would bring attention to something that. When they kill atheists over there, it's just some mob people that found out that there's this heathen living next to them and decide to kill him. But for somebody to organize something that sophisticated, it has to be from a well-funded group, and those kind of groups are much more strategic with who they kill.
Another point, we've interviewed Muslims and ex-Muslims, but what the ex-Muslim was telling us is the apostate, the one who believes the Muslim religion, is actually considered even lower on the scale than an atheist. So how do you see that? How do you see the ex-Muslim becoming the bridge to converse with the moderate Muslim population?
The thing is that when you realize that your best buddy for the past 10 years doesn't believe in Islam, it's harder for you to be like, okay, now I have to kill you. Or it's not like that. I mean, I mean, even when people in Egypt, when they say like, yeah, I think the government should kill ex-Muslims, they're not the kind of people, like, you can't imagine 84% of the population of a country ever wanting to see anybody get killed like that or do it themselves. You know, they just feel like maybe government should get involved. But, you know, these are real human beings with you know, feelings. You know? So we shouldn't assume that they're going to be reacting much differently to their friends and family than other people. Sometimes they do react very harshly, but not more than what you would see some like Christians getting kicked out of their parents' house when they announce that they're atheists, to that level. But you know, when a parent does decide to do honor killing and stuff like that, that does get a lot of attention. But you know, usually, you know, a mother's love for their child, or you know, classmates being friends with each other, you know, that's you know, I became open about my atheism in Iran with some of my classmates, and a lot of them started doubting religion right after that, just by mere introduction to them of the idea. You know, a lot of these people actually would be very open to these ideas. It's just that it has never even crossed their mind that this is a possibility.
Last summer in Saudi Arabia, a social media survey was done of several thousand young Saudi Arabians, and they found that 9% don't believe. And so I'm making this point because it's you know, in the West we no longer say the word Christendom. It died out after World War I. There's no such thing as Christendom. But everybody says Muslim countries, as if the religion owns the country. I would kindly ask and just mention that perhaps we might consider saying Muslim majority countries as an alternative to that, so that they don't feel as if that the country is owned by a religion, any religion.
Well, first of all, that, you know, that statistic you said is a social media statistic. So you have to realize that these are people that have access to social media, not the entire country. You will get a different, like a lot of Iranians when they come here, they, for example, they will tell you how liberal Iran is, but you have to realize these are the upper class Iranians that managed to buy a ticket and come here. So their social circle does not involve, you know, what most Iranians are like. But regarding owning, well, they do. I mean, even if there are minorities in each of these countries, the problem is that they do own the country. Like, for example, in Iraq, right? You have a lot of Sunnis there, but right now Shias kind of own Iraq. You know, during Saddam, even in the country that is majority Shia, the Sunnis owned Iraq. So in Iran, you would find much more atheists than you would find in Saudi Arabia. There's a lot more, negative reaction to religion right now in Iran. There's a lot of young people that are tired of Islam, and I would guess the percentage would be much higher. But I would say in Iran, even with all the atheist activism and all these secularist movements that are happening, and all these people that would actually, you know, their hatred towards Islam is sometimes, you know, very aggressive. Even in that country, I would say Islam, you know, the Shia government, you know, their ideology owns the country. It's an Islamic republic. They managed to force down their ideology and their view of life on a lot of people.
Yeah, but we don't have to help them. We can say Muslim majority or Buddhist majority.
Well, we actually would help by addressing the fact that they own the country and they should own the country. You know, we could address the reality of it. We could be like, this is not your country, you shouldn't treat it as your country. You know, this is, you're a government, you should be representing your people, this is not your country to own, right? That's how you're treating it, right?
On the subject of what we can do, I am also in Toastmasters, and they have their annual international, they're a very international organization. And they held their convention in Indonesia last year, which made me pretty super uncomfortable. And I never came up with a good strategy about, now I know where I can go, so next time that happens, I'll have somewhere. But I mean, if you're part of, you know, organizations with international reach that are not traditionally shit-disturbing outfits, what would you say is like a way to address that? I mean, I
Like what kind of like,
be
what's
able to
like
give
that?
someone else's talk, I guess, about why someone here who can't say they're an atheist is an atheist, or something like that.
If you're in Indonesia?
Yeah, if you were going there for a convention, because I don't think they're going to go after a tourist who's like, oh, I'm an atheist. They don't care, you know.
Yeah.
It's if you're a national that then
Yes.
the hammer comes down, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it, but you might be able to do it. I mean,
Right.
honestly, I don't know. I mean, I would be I think I would be a little bit uncomfortable doing that in an Islamic country myself. But I don't know about Indonesia. What I would actually is look up what what to expect before doing something like that. The thing is that there is no in a time that we have access to voicing our opinion on YouTube, on podcasts, and for thousands of people to hear. You have audiences that you would never get in any kind of event. There's not that much of a need to take risk for us, right? And that's the advantage that we have. We could do these things from a position of safety, and for people that can't do it from a position of safety, right? So, I mean.
No, I think that answers my question, but please carry on.
I'm just trying to zero in on this. It almost seems like you're talking about we used to call pen pals. Where somebody like me, I don't have a blog or anything, but I'm on the net a lot, and it seems to me that reaching out and touching people that way, I can't see any. You're talking about any physical acts that we could take per se.
Yeah, but the thing is that by physical you mean offline.
Yeah, like send money or send bombs or whatever.
I wouldn't send money because you never know where that money is going to end up.
Oh, you would send bombs. If
you're thinking about donating, I would suggest hooking up with organizations that are already have experience with sending money over there, like working with organizations that are trying to increase education, transparency, that kind of stuff. But we do get a lot of messages of people asking us for financial support, and when we talk to other people, we don't know who these people are. We don't have the experience of to do check. Maybe I don't know what this. Does he really need this money to buy a ticket, or is he like a terrorist group trying to fund I don't know what. We could get into a lot of legal troubles for doing that. But the thing is that you don't have to do by physical. I think you mean offline. Like events.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a lot of negative reaction. A lot of people think that online discussions and online meetings and planning and organizations, they're not as meaningful as face-to-face. And I really don't think that's the case. You can have a lot, an online conversation is as real as an offline one. And it's a lot more convenient. A lot of people are getting their information online. And you could reach out to, many more people if you were spending it online than if you were doing it offline. So I don't think that we should discount the effectiveness, of our online activity, and just reach and might seem so small, like just reaching out to ex-Muslims and showing them support and commenting on their posts and asking them questions. You think that's not that big of a deal, but it is if you share it with more people. The thing is that when you share these ideas, when you share these stories, before you could get anything done, you need to get people caring about it, right? And to get people caring about it, you need to share these people's stories. Yeah. So it is a very effective. It's just each one of us supporting one. Some of these people might seem like a small step, but if we all do it together, and if we make their concerns our concerns, people will take notice. News organizations will eventually take notice when they realize that so many people here care about it, so many people are talking about it. And on social media, the things that are being discussed on social media, a lot of news organizations are monitoring this. And when they see a trend, when they see people being more and more concerned about issues, they start covering it.
Hi. How productive or counterproductive were the Charlie Hebdo cartoons with respect to furthering your atheism in the Islamic world?
Very, very productive. Yeah, as long as you get people talking about it, these issues is good. Even when in the last presentation you were talking about the Christians are having. Somebody asked the question like we see a lot of Christians having a stronger backlash, right? We want that backlash because that means more people are talking about it because now they're bringing attention to atheist views. You want as long a lot of Muslims are discussing among themselves. Should we be offended about these things? Is this like there's nothing in Islam, for example, that says that you can't draw Prophet Muhammad. There is no hadith for that, right? So many Muslims are like, okay, why are we so offended about this, anyways? And because when they saw all the masses of people in Paris saying I am Charlie, that was too much. That was too much to say like all these people are, bigots, right? Because at first they were like, yes, we unite with you in condemning these horrendous. Like most Muslims obviously don't agree with killing people for drawing a cartoon. But they also will. The problem is that they will condemn terrorists and the cartoonists. The terrorists didn't have a right to kill the cartoonists, but the cartoonists also didn't have a right to draw them. So the thing is that when at first they were supporting everybody by condemning the terrorists, but then when they saw everybody picking up the signs and saying supporting the cartoonists, they were like, I don't know if I should go that far, right? And so a lot of people, you actually see on Reddit, on all social media, if you read what younger Muslims are doing, they were actually fighting among themselves about how much freedom of speech is good freedom of speech, and that challenge, that internal struggle that they're having with each other is exactly what you want.
So anything that promotes debate,
anything that promotes
is good.
Yeah.
No matter how extreme.
As long as they're not killing. Yes, yeah. As long as people are not getting physically hurt, any kind of discussion is good.
What about working in the communities in Canada as well, in Muslim communities? One thing I've noticed is that when recent immigrants come from Middle Eastern countries or North African countries, they don't have a lot of English skills, they don't have a lot of social connections, and they go to mosque. And that's where they start to develop all their connections and friendships. And I notice that they get a lot of literature from the mosque. And I'm wondering if there is some way to have, is there literature on your side in Arabic or in Farsi or in any of the languages that would be available to somebody coming here who is just kind of starting to experience a culture that isn't strictly Islamic?
Yeah. Actually, a lot of these organizations, as soon as there's, new books out there on atheism, they get translated so fast. They just take it. There's so many websites dedicated to translating secularist views, atheist views by ex-Muslims in those areas. So it's not that they're not out there. It's just that you have to convince people that these are not evil, before you even hand it out to them. And what I was arguing is the best way to do that is to empower ex-Muslims to reach out to these people, because when other people do it, they always like, oh, these are Western people trying to take you away from Islam, and they see it as imposing your ideology on them. So what I'm saying is, when you have ex-Muslims on your side, it's harder for them to frame you like that, because they don't see that now as a foreigner trying to impose their Western ways on them, right?
Well, I mean, you don't actually I know some Muslims when I told them where I was coming to today, I was actually told that you don't exist.
Oh.
There's literally no such thing.
So hold the picture.
I'm going to prove them wrong right here.
It's like when Ahmadinejad said there's no gays in Iran. It's the same.
Yeah, he should have visited my high school.
So, Armin, do you want to take one or two more questions, and then we'll have
Sure.
people come and you can do the book signing, and we'll do all that.
Actually, continuing on from a question earlier about the unrelated conventions and stuff, I know that there are some people and groups that try to push for conventions not to go to places like that. Do you have any particular thoughts on that, or not?
For me, the only place I can go right now is Iran, because
Yeah.
I'm a citizen there, so they could do whatever they want to me. But I don't think you guys would be unsafe in most places, because you're a citizen of another country, so the government would be very picky about anything happening to you.
But my question is more of whether having a big convention of some organization, some place like that would be good or bad, or should we try and push for them not to go there, or to go there, or
Where? Like, depends on the country.
well, any conditions on like what sort of countries would you say no, they shouldn't go there?
Well, there's countries that you can't if you even wanted to, right? So I would say, like, I don't know,
I think it's like, Indiana right now is getting a huge backlash, and even organizations that are not.
well, you shouldn't be afraid of backlash. If you're afraid of safety issues, that's one thing. But if you're afraid of backlash, no, you should welcome backlash. Backlash is what we need, because we need backlash will get you more. Sorry, go on.
I think he was, if I can, I think what he was asking is, I think he's maybe wondering if, as a way of not supporting, kind of continued Islamic domination, that maybe those of us here should perhaps be advocating to organizations that we're members of not to hold conferences in Islamic countries, to stay away from them financially, to not, so maybe would it be effective for, like, say I'm a member of a large company, and we're looking at handling, an annual global, big convention.
Yes.
Now, would it be effective for me to go out to say, not going to be held in an Islamic country, and I'm going to let them know why?
Or boycotts.
Yeah, basically, should we be boycotting Islamic countries?
Well, I wouldn't be able to answer that, because that's something that I don't have experience with. Our strategy is more of a bottom-up approach rather than a top-down approach. We try to change the minds of individuals, and eventually, if you change the minds of enough individuals, you will change the government and the people that are in those countries. I personally like that much better, but I'm not saying other methods are not effective. It's just that I don't have experience with it.
Isn't that just like sanctions? You're punishing the people, not the government in a way?
Well, sanctions worked on Iran. They're having nuclear. I don't know. It's just, yeah. I mean, yeah. I wouldn't be able to comment on that. It's something. You might get a media attention because of it. If you get media attention because of it, then you're bringing attention to something that needs attention. Negative side of it is that you might lose the opportunity of creating more connection between two countries, where it could have introduced a lot of new ideas to people over there. When it comes to hurting other people, I'm assuming it's a convention that is bringing a lot of economic value to that country. In that case, you might be, but then you have to then figure out the cost and benefit. There's a lot that goes into these decisions, and I think it's like more of a case-by-case analysis rather than coming up with a overall strategy for everything.
Okay, I think we're going to end it with that. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.